Welcome to this video, and in this video we're going to look at filtering responses, or as it is sometimes called, restricting responses that are available at data entry. Now this applies to all data collection formats, whether that be from paper questionnaires, CAPI or CATI. And what this means is that we actually only want to make certain responses available at some questions depending on what's been answered at a previous question. So the first example we're going to look at is how we restrict answers in perhaps a series of 3 questions. And the 3 questions that we're going to work on here are, the first question is going to ask which brands have you ever bought. The second question will ask which is your most commonly bought brand, or which brand do you buy most often. And the third question in the series will be, of the brands that you haven't bought, which do you consider buying, or would you consider buying? Now for the first question, obviously all brands will be available. For the second of those questions, for the most often bought, it will only be the brands that have been selected as ever bought. And for the third of that series, the brands that they would consider buying, it will only be the brands that they didn't or haven't ever bought at the first in that series. So let's insert those questions. The first question in the series I'm going to call question 6, and I'm going to add 6 brands here, so we'll say there's a maximum of 6 brands. And we'll add that in, and the response is just straightforward, adding responses here as brand A to brand F. So let's enter our brands, and we can just save that, and that's just a standard question. Now we can copy that with a right click and a paste special, add that to question 7. So there's question 7, and we can do the same thing again for our next question in this series, question 8. And we've got our 3 questions in. Now we've just got to update the question text, so let's do that first. So which brand do you buy most often? And we'll make this single. We'll force people to give one answer. So we could make this more intelligent by only allowing people to answer question 7 if they gave more than one brand at question 6, and copying through the brand from question 6 if they only gave one answer. But we're not going to do that here. We're going to look at just carrying through answers and selections. Alright, so we've changed the text for question 7, and now we can apply our filter of only picking those brands that are selected at question 7. Now we've used these icons here to filter a whole question, but here we just want to restrict the responses that go into this question. So we're going to click on this icon here, and we're only going to allow the answers given at question 6. And that should complete exactly what we want here, and you can see that's shown in the worksheet here. Now question 8, we've got to edit the question text here. Which of these brands that you have not bought would you consider buying in the future? Alright, so the brands are fine. Now we can go to the filters again. We can apply a negative question filter restrictor here, response restrictor here, so that's that icon here. Pick question 6 again, click OK, and you'll see that gets not Q6 put here. So we've done all we need to do to set the questions up, and we now can just test that. So if we highlight questions 6, 7 and 8, we can go into answers, just test the selected entries. It doesn't matter whether we use paper or CAPI, because it will apply to all forms of data entry, any restrictions that we apply. And we can test. And now if we pick, let's say, brands A, B and C here, and go on to question 7, you'll see that A, B and C appear at question 7. So we can click that as our main or most often brand, and we could say that we'll consider buying E and F at some point in the future. And let's just try that again. Let's this time pick 1 and 6. And this time we can choose between A and F. And we could say pick those two as ones we consider buying in the future. So that looks as though it's working fine, and we've managed to input questions 6 and 7. Now sometimes it's not as easy as that. Sometimes you actually need to build variables to restrict the answers that are going to appear at subsequent questions. So let's take an example now where we're going to ask someone what brand they bought most recently as the first question, what other brands they have bought, and from those two questions we're going to ask them which is their favourite brand, because it may not be the most recent brand. So let's go through a similar exercise here. Let's insert a question. Let's call it question 9. Let's have a maximum of 5 brands this time. And let's add the brands as brand 1, brand 2, brand 5. So that's that. And I think we also said we wanted the most recent here, so I should have set that to single response just to get their most recent answer. So we just need to add in a title here. And so that's question 9 completed. So there's question 9. I seem to have put it in the wrong place, so we'll quickly just cut that and paste it back in here. And now we can just copy this question, copy, paste special, make it question 10. And the same here, we could just paste special again to get question 11, just the same as before. Now here we can say, which other brands have you ever bought? So we're now looking for the other brands. So this will be multiple coding this time. We'll allow a maximum of 6 answers. But of course we don't want the answers for the most recent because it's other brands. So we're going to filter this rather like before on the answers at question, the negative, I should have said there, the negative of question 9. So we only get to see responses that, or the response that wasn't given at question 9. So that's question 9. And question 11, we're going to ask which is your favourite brand of the ones you have bought. So here we're going to allow a single answer only, but here we want to restrict it to the brands that they've ever bought, either at question 9 or question 10. So we can't do what we did before and just say it's not this, or just I want to filter the responses or restrict responses from one question. What we'll have to do now is build a variable in here that combines 9 and 10 together. So let's insert a variable. Let's call it VQ9Q10. Let's call it Q9 and Q10 combined. Let's go to the responses. Let's add responses, and we want a quick multiple OR here of answers given at 9 or 10. OK. And quit that. So now we've got any answer given at 9 and 10, which means we can apply a filter on the responses to question 11. Filters. Now we want the response restrictor filter, and we want to do it from the variable, not from a question this time. So this time we're using a variable to restrict our answers. So let's save that and just check it's working on that block of 4 questions. Same as before, selected entries test. Doesn't matter whether it's paper or CAPI or CATI. So let's say our most recent brand was brand number 2. That takes out brand 2 from this list. Let's say we've ever bought 1 and 5. And now we can pick our favourite from 1, 2 and 5, because although 2 is the most recent, we might choose 1 as our favourite. And we can just test it once more. We could pick 5, 1, 2 and 3, and we get 1, 2, 3 and 5 then as the choice for the favourites. So that completes this short session on filtering responses or restricting responses that are available at data collection or data entry, and that's been doing it by picking it from a question or a variable. Thank you.